Did you know 86% of workplace issues stem from poor communication? And in a small business, silence can cost you and could even damage you. If you're looking for ways to help your staff speak up more and to share what's really going on, this video is for you. Hi, I'm Kathy Doherty, the People Navigator, and if you're a small business owner or people leader and you'd like to get honest, human-based advice about leading people well, you're in the right place. Today we're talking about how to make open, honest communication part of your team culture and not just a one-off conversation, and without your team feeling like they're put on the spot or risking it all. Ask open questions. These are different to closed questions. Closed questions result in the yes, no, those sorts of responses, where effectively the conversation is shut down before it even got a chance to start. Instead of asking, is everything okay? Which would invite a yeah, no response, and that's it. Stick with the usual who, what, why, when, where, how, those sorts of questions. That's how you begin. But also bear in mind the usual response, how are you doing? Fine. So not those sorts of open questions. How about what's working well for you this week? What's frustrating you this week? What's getting in your way? How can I help you more? How can I change what I'm doing? You see where I'm going? It gives people a real chance to speak up, and it's all about creating that safe environment, which I'll talk about in a second. But open questions are similar to the kind of questions you would ask at interview, where it's all about having a conversation. I'm chuckling because I can hear the dogs sitting here growling in the background, and I hope you can't. Have a think about the kind of open questions you could ask, make a list, and begin using those and see how you get on. You'll then have a list that then becomes something that feels natural to you. Take a note of the kind of open questions you might like to ask. What are you curious about? Then have your short list of your own open questions and begin there. Create a safe environment. A safe environment allows people to express themselves whilst feeling accepted and respected. That means it's not just that individual, but they also need to apply it to their colleagues, to those around them. It's not about one person getting to express themselves at the cost of other people. We all know that person in the workplace, don't we? This is about everybody in the team being able to share their thoughts, to risk being honest, and to know that that risk was rewarded, that you listen to them, that it's okay to give that honest feedback. It's important that you don't punish honesty in the context of respect. Disagreement is okay, and in fact, a lot of ideas and improvements can come from disagreements. But it's how you phrase it and it's how you receive it. Remember, you're wanting the work to be the challenge, not the working environment. How does it feel for you when you're able to apply your whole self to what you need to do, that you're not having to hold something back, you're not working out of fear, you're not reserving yourself in that way, that you can give all your energy, your focus, your attention to whatever the task is in hand, and how much more effective and productive you are. It's the same for the people in your team. And when you are told something, you need to act on it. Even little changes. There will be things that you won't be able to act on, but the more that you can encourage people to contribute, that their thoughts are valued, and when you implement those little changes, it shows that their views mattered, and that then builds trust for the next conversations or for whatever then happens after that. I remember when I was taking over a resourcing team, where I'd started on the Monday, I was told there were a load of temps starting on the Tuesday, and we were expecting at least 1,000 requests for application on the Thursday. And this was before we had online applications. And when I spoke to them on the Tuesday, it was apparent that they weren't all great at technology. And what I did was I put a whiteboard up in that room, which I had declared had been filled with boxes. This was part of my starting challenge. I put a whiteboard up on the wall and I asked them to write down quickly, stick it on, even on a post-it note, and stick it up on the board, what frustrated them, what was getting in their way, any improvements that they thought could be made, whether at that stage it was to the spreadsheet in terms of the order of the spreadsheet, whether it be to how we process, all of those sorts of things, the communications we were having, whatever it was, it didn't matter how small it was, note it down, stick it on that whiteboard, and at the end of each day, we would review and work out. I would work out what I could implement, I would work out what maybe I couldn't, but there may be elements of it I could implement, and I did this with them, and they were a very loyal team. They were an incredibly effective team, and they felt that their voices mattered because I was applying whatever changes I could make. And I explained to them there are going to be things that are out of my control that I might not be able to, but what I can and what makes sense. And we will talk about it, because it might be that I don't understand where you're coming from. So I'll need you to explain what that point is, but let's have a conversation about it. And not to rule anything out, everything was up for a discussion, an exploratory discussion. And it really did make a difference. But that was acting on the information I was getting. That was acting on their opinions, their viewpoints. And quite often, when you hear the disengagement from employee surveys, that it's well, why should I bother completing this? Because it never makes a difference anyway. It's the same thought process. Don't ask unless you're prepared to do something with it. But in these circumstances, that might not be an ask, it might be volunteered. And use regular check-ins. Like I mentioned in that resourcing team, I would check in at the end of every day, and sometimes I would check in midway through the day, depending on what stage we were at, to catch up to see was there anything I could do in the meantime. Rather than waiting for there to be a problem, rather than waiting, which is the reactive, I took that proactive, I hate those terms, but that's what it was, is rather than waiting for something to come to me, rather than waiting for a problem to arise, I took that action, I encouraged the conversation. And it doesn't have to be anything major, and sometimes you can find your team maybe struggles to think of, I'm not really sure, but quite often, it's if you ask them to take that note as they go, that's when it bugs them in that moment, or when they notice it in that moment, that's when they need to note it down. Schedule something in and frame it in a way that it is about improvement. However you want to phrase it. It's easier to make the little changes than massive overhauls. When you are listening, make sure you are actually listening. By that I mean active listening. And what does that mean? Okay, so active listening is where you're actually paying attention to the person who is talking to you, and they feel seen. They know that you're paying attention to them. You're not staring at them. You're not glazy-eyed looking at them, but your thoughts are elsewhere. That you're not looking all around you and not paying attention. You're not on your phone. You're not doing something else. You're actually listening and paying attention to the person in front of you, and they know that you're listening because you're making the appropriate responses at the appropriate time. It's not like, and I have to confess, an old uni friend who talked and talked about nothing and everything. And I would have set the phone down and walked off, come back and went, set the phone down, walked away, come back and made appropriate noises. But don't do that. That's not active listening. I'm sorry. I hope they don't know who they are, but they might do. But also, as part of active listening is paraphrasing. It's translating what that person has communicated to you and phrasing it in a way that you understand, but you're checking that your understanding is correct. So then you can respond after you've paraphrased. And it's about reserving judgment. You're on active listening mode, and you need all of your energy and attention towards that, because it is tiring. It is exhausting to give somebody all of that attention, but it's less exhausting if that's the focus and you're not trying to do multiple things at once. Also, you end up not peeving somebody off because they know when you're not listening to them. They know when they don't have your full attention. They know when you'd rather be somewhere else. They can pick up on your energy. They can pick up on the shuffling movement when you're fidgeting and you're looking at things. You might be looking at your watch or looking at your phone. It's clear by all these other signals, you don't want to be there and you're not interested in what they've got to say. That's not the impression you want to give. That's not the reality you want to portray. Listen to understand to the whole message, not just what they say, not just how they say it, but also what they're feeling and what their intentions are. When you speak, don't you like to be heard and understood? It's the same for them. Good communication starts with one good question. Try one this week and let me know how it goes. Remember to like, subscribe, and drop your favorite team question in the comments below. See you next time.